Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Velvet x Emerald x Coco? Part 2. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Life wasn't fair. Blake Belladonna had never been more certain of that fact until this moment. Give it back! She tried for what felt like the umpteenth time to snatch her stolen ribbon back from Naruto, to no avail. Much to her dismay, her fellow faunus held it tight in his right hand as he walked ahead of her. Any attempt on her part to extricate it from his fist seemed doomed to failure. No matter how she tried to distract him, she couldn't pry the strip of fabric from his fist. Every attempt on her part only served to deepen his scowl. By now, sixth attempt, he looked positively murderous. Still, she had to try. Would you stop glaring at me? Naruto clicked his tongue in mild admonishment as he stepped over a fallen log. I'm not happy about this either, but we're partners now. We'll just to deal with it. She swiped at his hand again. No. He shook his head and batted her palm away. You're not getting this back. I don't know why you were hiding those ears of yours, but I'm not having it. Don't hide who you are. It's none of your business, she sulked. I had a reason for hiding them. I'm a fox, sweetheart. Piercing blue eyes roved across the path ahead and the trees above before finally settling on her. Everything is my business. Tell you what. He paused and turned to plant his back against a worn-looking tree. You tell me the reason why, and I'll give it back. No strings attached. Silence reigned supreme. Have it your way. The fox faunus shrugged. The bow stays with me, then. You're insufferable, you know that? Blake scuffed the ground with her foot and kicking dirt at him as he marched on ahead of her once more. I don't want to be your partner. You weren't even trying to knock me out of that tree. Why don't you just let me go and pretend you never met me? It would be better for the both of us. No can do, kitty cat. As ever, his razor would bit through her defiance like an angry Beowulf. Ashpin and his cronies are watching us. You can run if you like, you strike me as the type, but it won't change the result. She dragged herself after him like a ball and chain for fear of being left behind. You're lying. Nope. Naruto jerked a thumb over his shoulder, indicating a nearby oak to her right. There's a camera up there in the branches. You can see it in the sunlight if you squint. Much to her chagrin, she saw light dance off metal as a lens focus on them. See? He snapped of a snarky salute to the device in question. There's no getting out of this. Damn it. Damn him. She tried so hard, gotten so far, but in the end it didn't even matter. She'd come to Beacon to start over. This was meant to be the beginning of a new life for her. She'd pass initiation and become a huntress here, find a simple partner who wouldn't pry into her past, and a team who wouldn't ask questions. She would be free of the White Fang and all her sins, given a chance to atone. Fate had a cruel sense of humor, it seemed. Instead, she'd wound up with the one person she couldn't accept. She'd seen this boy mop the floor with Carden and his cronies in the auditorium with almost punitive ease, and while a small, silent part of her admired that he'd stuck up for that poor girl, right now she wanted nothing more than to drown him in a river. It wasn't his fault. He just stood out too much. Reminded her of Adam too much. She'd thought herself clever, but moreover, she thought Vale was safe. She'd left the White Fan to get away from faunus like him, not to tumble into the arms of another. In a different life she would have waited another year before leaving the Fang, leaving Adam behind as she had. But she'd been so angry. A simple argument between the two of them had escalated into a war of ideals, and so here she was. Adam and Ilya weren't supposed to come after her, yet they had. Now here she was trapped with a maniac of a different sort, who still wouldn't give back her bow. Beacon was meant to be an escape from all this. A winning hand in the card game that was life. Not this. Frantic and out of options, she threw one of her last remaining card at her still silent partner. I know who you are. Naruto hummed and peeled back a branch for her. Do you now? By all means, enlighten me. She ducked under it and hurried after him. Damn him, and those long legs of his. He had to be enjoying this. You're that thief. When he only chuckled at her, she felt her face darken even more. The one from Vacuo. Desert Storm. Really? His laughter redoubled. Is that what they're calling me these days? Ha! He batted aside a web of vines and paused to inspect a tree whose bark had been clawed apart. Amateurs. Should have picked a better name. Doesn't that mean anything to you? His laughter only intensified, leaving her to duck under the next branch herself. She glowered angry golden daggers at the blonde's broad shoulders, trying to burn a hole through his back with them alone. Every faunus worth their salt knew his deeds, even if many had never seen his face. The twin shields he wore at his wrists merely confirmed her earlier suspicions. She didn't even know if Naruto was his name, but she knew what the faun called him to make her own assumptions. Desert Storm. Not quite a gentleman thief, but not some mindless thug either. A daring burglar, his crimes were many, but unlike Adam, he'd never taken a life. She didn't have any proof. But she'd suspected, and he made no effort to deny it. It was enough to make her want to melt back into the shadows and hide. So much for her new life. She was associating with a wanted criminal now. How long would it be until others made the connection, realized just what she was trying to hide? Her past seemed determined to hound her everywhere she went. Cat got your tongue? Naruto's voice called up ahead of her. You've been quiet for a while now. That's unlike you. Blake growled and buelled on ahead of him. Rather, she tried to until an arm shot out to bar her path. She glowered bloody red daggers at its owner. Will you stop being a... When that same hand slammed over her mouth and yanked her behind a tree, her first instinct was to panic. Fear compelled her to cry out, but even that noise was muffled against Naruto's palm. She glared up at him, but those mirthful blue eyes were chips of ice now, cold and hard and focused. Naruto raised a finger to his lips. He shook his head slowly and she saw his mouth move, though no sound emerged. It was easy enough to read them. She soon wished she hadn't. Don't move. Blake didn't get a chance to ask why not. She heard it before she saw it. A great dark shape easily 3 times their height lumbered through the emerald forest ahead of them, swaying and lurching. She caught a flash of white bone against the black and her heart skipped a beat. Grim? It didn't look right. She'd seen her fair share of minor grim before, even killed a few, but there was something off about this one. Before she could ascertain what it was, the beast paused, sniffed once at the air, and moved on. There. Naruto released her as it bounded away. It's gone. Blake pawed at his hand. What the hell was that? Warn me next time. Probably a Beowulf. Naruto slumped against a tree. Big one too. We're better off avoiding it. Abruptly, the canopy above them shook as something landed miles above them. Both faunus froze. An unfamiliar shriek pierced the sky as whatever it was took off again, and a cold downdraft assailed them. Blake felt a cold bead of sweat run down her brow as she released a breath she hadn't even known she was holding. And that? Something bigger. Her partner thumbed his chin as he regarded the trees above with bleak look. Nevermore by the sound of it. Something we want no part of. I don't know about you, but I'm no good when it comes to aerial grim. Was this forest full of giant grim or something? Blake looked down and saw her ribbon still held in his fist. Saw her chance. He was distracted by the trees. Moreover, he wasn't paying the least attention to her. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. She dove for it while he was looking away, and against all odds, succeeded. This time she somehow managed to wrap her fingers around the tail end of the thin material. The moment she did, she yanked on it with all her might. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. Enough! Naruto batted the hand away and rounded on her with a hiss as he held it out of her grasp. We've got giant grim about and you're still after this thing? Where are your priorities? It's mine, she cried. You're right. The smile he flashed her was colder than winter itself. Let's do something about that. Before she could think to stop him, he stepped back and seized the thin strip of fabric between both hands. An ominous ripping sound filled Blake's ears as he snapped the ribbon taut. No. He wouldn't. Surely he couldn't be that cruel. Even as she stepped forward to stop him, it was too late. She could only cry out. No! Don't! Naruto tore her ribbon, what was left of it, to shreds before her very eyes. Blake felt something tear inside herself with the ruined cloth. It was just a ribbon, she told herself. She could always get another one. By then it would be too late. She'd be seen by the rest of the first years and outed as a faunus. She knew what would come after. It would be just the same as it always was. Because of this. Because of him. There. He patted his hands, leaving the torn shreds to settle at her feet. Let's see you wear it now, coward. Coward. Without so much as a backward glance, he stormed away. Still, that last word struck Blake like a slap in the face, and she hesitated, if only for a moment. She'd been called worse, far worse, during her time with the Fang, but those words still stung all the same. Even more so coming from someone outside it. Her anger ignited. Why are you like this? She shouted at his back. Me? Quick as a flash he rounded on her, ears twitching. I'm not the one hiding who I am. Her own flattened in response. That's not. Blake Belladonna? Really? How obvious can you be? He snapped his teeth at her, eliciting another flinch from the younger faunus. If you know me, then just about every faunus alive knows your last name. You didn't even try to disguise yourself. Not really. A bow? Come on, now. Did you think that would work? And look at you. She rammed her forehead against his with a hiss, standing on her tiptoes just to reach him. You didn't even try to change your appearance. I used a more subtle approach. But you're right. He leaned back, leaving her startled with his reply. I could have. But I didn't. Do you know why? Tremulously, she shook her head. Unlike you, I'm proud of my life. The whiskered youth jabbed a thumb at his chest, his words cracked at her like a whip. I have no regrets. If I see injustice or something I don't like, I'll act first and ask questions later. Consequences be damned. If anyone is bullied in front of me, human or faunus, I'm gonna break that bully's legs. Eye for an eye. Tooth for a tooth. That's how I work. He really was just like Adam. No, he was worse. Adam slaughtered the enemies of the White Fang. Naruto clearly left his wishing for death. He left them humiliated and broken just like Carden. You can't do that. She said as much, for what little good it did her. Can. He poked her forehead, forcing her back a step. Will. Get used to it, princess. Another poke, another retreat. You only get one life in this rotten world, so make the most of it. Her back hit a tree and he all but pinned her there with his gaze. Now get off your high horse, stop running, and fight for what you believe in. Isn't that what the White Fang does? I'm not. You are. Naruto paused, frowned, reconsidered his words as he considered another savage tree. Or at the very least, you were. Used to be. You have that air about you. Realization dawned in his eyes and the weight behind his gaze threatened to bury her alive. I get it now. Why else would someone like Adam freaking Taurus come to Beacon like this? He came to retrieve someone. You. She took a step backward. Are you working with him? Why would I? I'm a freak. He scoffed, tail thrashing angrily against his back. 9 out of 10 faunus come into this world with a single animal trait. Me? I wound up with 2. 3 if you count the whiskers. His ears, human and faunus alike, twitched as he stared her down. If that weren't enough, there's the matter of my birth. My mother, my own flesh and blood, died bringing me into this world. He shrugged. uncaring of her flinch. My father couldn't bear to look at me after that. He finally threw me out into the streets a few years later. Do you have any idea what that's like to live like that? Do you even care? No. Turning his head, he spat at her feet. We're nothing alike, Blake. He shook his head. Em and I chose to leave the life of a thief behind because we'd made enemies. Fear had nothing to do with it. The stakes were getting too high, and we wanted something better than what we had, so we left. We never lied to ourselves. Never deceived each other. We knew exactly what we were getting into. He jammed both thumbs into his belt and frowned at her. If this falls through, it'll be a disappointment, but it won't be the end of our world. We'll just have to make a career change. You'll go back to being thieves. She flung the words at him. We won't like it, he batted the words away with a bitter smile, but we have to make a living. Then you're no better a common criminal. At that remark, his eyes turned to slits, and she thought he might slap her. There it is. Incredibly, he smiled and shook his head. That's the look. I've seen it for years in face after face in the streets of Vacuo. In a flash, Naruto moved. Stop running from your past, damn it! Blake realized her peril too late. By then he'd already seized her by the shoulders. Now he gave her a firm shake. Face it head on. Grab it by the horns if you have to. I know it's hard for you. I know it hurts. When she tried to speak out and shout him down, he snarled her into silence. Listen to me. If you keep going as you are now, you're going to regret it. If you can't get over what you've done, then commit to it. Strangle that guilt holding you back. Raise your head high and walk forward. I can't. She railed back, slapping his chest. I'm not a monster. Unlike you, I regret the things I've done. Oh. Monster, am I? The blonde reared back as if she'd slapped him, and his scowl turned to a bitter smile. Perhaps you should speak to me more softly then. Monsters are dangerous. You'd happily damn me for the deeds I've done, condemn me for the crimes you think I've committed, but your hands are just as bloody as mine. His finger jabbed her shoulder, and she recoiled with a hiss. If not more so. That's not I didn't. Men fear monsters, don't they? Still he advanced, bulldozing her protests. And not just men, but women and children too. Even our kind run from them. Fear them. Dread them. And you believe you know what it is to be a monster, So you've taken a few lives and feel bad about it. Tough. Her wrist lashed at him and he caught, stalling the slap before it could strike. See? You tried to hit me for it. Hypocrite. You'll gladly run away from your past, but you won't face it. He flung her arm away. There are worse things than death. Far worse. Get over yourself. A lone ice blue iris regarded her over his shoulder. You have no idea what a monster is, Blake. Follow me. I'm going to show you. And if I refuse? That's on you. His shoulders rose and fell in a huff. Follow or don't. You're a hot mess, and I shouldn't have to fix you, but I'm gonna try. Blake wasn't sure if that was supposed to comfort her or not. She dragged herself after him. They walked on in bitter silence for what felt like hours. In reality, she was sure only a few minutes had passed. Finally, Naruto spoke again. I'm not sorry about what I said, he said haltingly, choosing his words with great care as they broke through the brush and found the path once more. You might think me cruel, but it's the truth. I'm not saying the White Fang is full of saints, but sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in. Nothing will change if you just stand there and turn the other cheek. I did fight. She took her lips between her teeth. I'm tired of fighting. You never stop fighting. Naruto countered sagely as he led them deeper into the thicket. From the moment you take your first breath in this world to your last, you're always fighting for something. Be it food, water, or even companionship. You see, the trick is finding something to believe in, something you love, someone you'd die for. Blue eyes turned to regard her. Widened. Duck. Blake obeyed without thinking, and not a moment took soon. A rush of warm air passed perilously close to her head as one Naruto's shields whipped past, followed by a bestial howl. One far too close for her liking. Against her better judgment, the younger fauness turned and found the source. She tumbled backward with a yelp when she found the weapon buried in the white skull of a Beowulf, its jaws poised perilously close to take a bite right out of her shoulder. No longer. The creature collapsed with a wet gurgle at her feet and dissolved into harmless ash. She hadn't even heard it coming. Was she really that distracted? "You all right?" Golden eyes blinked rapidly as concerned blue orbs swelled before them. Between one moment and the next, Naruto had appeared beside her. Now he offered her his hand as he bent down to retrieve his fallen shield. He could have let her die. But he hadn't. Why? She sucked in a small, ragged breath and clamped a hand down on his arm, allowing herself to be hoisted to her feet. "Have you killed Grim before?" He was looking at her as though she were glass, afraid she might shatter at any moment. She loaded it. "Of course I have." Her cheeks burned as she batted his hands away. "I was just caught off guard. That's all." "That unusual," Naruto muttered. "Not you," he amended casually at her heated glance. "Grim don't sneak up on people like that. The regular ones usually just howl and bray and run dead at you. Even the crabs back in Vacuo didn't really ambush you unless you walked right over their lair. Well, the spiders did, but that's to be expected, I guess." "Crabs?" Blake felt her gut twist. "Spiders? Big ones?" Naruto added with a nod, heedless of her growing terror. "They'd jump right out of the sand and wham! A fist smacked into an open palm. If you weren't careful, you'd be dragged right under." "I don't think I want to see Vacuo," Blake whimpered. "Ever." "Don't blame you." He grinned, and for the first time, she found herself almost mirroring it. "Nobody likes Vacuo. Don't look now, but we've got more company." Blake followed his gaze and found a pair of Uchiha, minor and greater alike, lumbering out of the brush only a few yards ahead. Unlike the odd Beowulf of before, these two made no such attempts at subterfuge. They saw them and charged forward, braying all the while. She broke off to engage the smaller of the pair, used her semblance to evade its first swipe, and subsequently dispatched it with a quick slice across the throat. Quick and efficient, not a single motion wasted on her part. Naruto dove at the big one, eyes burning red. "I call dibs." To its credit, the Ursa saw him coming and reacted accordingly, for all the good it did. Rather than take its mighty claw on one of his shields, the blonde let glance harmlessly off his aura and leaped at the beast. Unprepared for such a suicidal maneuver, the Grim wasn't able to react until he clambered onto its back. By then, it was too late. Tan palms clamped down on the ghastly white spines protruding from its back and held tight. "What are you doing?" Blake balked. Naruto didn't answer her with words, but deeds. That ghastly glow in those now amber orbs roared ever higher, alight with some inner flame. The beast must have sensed something amiss, because its struggles intensified tenfold. Still Naruto clung on, riding the bear like a bucking bronco. His eyes burned a bloody scarlet now, sharp and slitted, his lips parted in an almost rapturous expression. Blake started forward, gamble shroud in hand. Her charge died when she saw his body begin to burn red. Enraged beyond measure, the Ursa reared up and tried to crush Naruto against a tree, but the blonde merely twisted his body out of the way, planted his feet on its back, and pulled. And the Grim began to slow. Ashbin blinked down at the scroll in his hand. Once. Twice. Then thrice. "Well," he frowned. "I didn't expect this." Glinda looked over his shoulder, and her face turned absolutely ashen. Ashbin didn't blame her. Had he a mirror, he expected his face would have been a similar shade of white right about now. It was like watching something out of a horror movie. You wanted to look away, and he did, but you just couldn't bring yourself to avert your eyes from the disaster unfolding before you. How strange. He'd chosen to watch the boy on a whim, and here, in this moment, he almost pitied the blonde's prey. That did not look like a pleasant death. Still, this was incredible and terrifying. Such a power could not be squandered. Though it hurt his heart to say it, Beacon needed such a gift. Sir, his lieutenant whispered, is he? His lips turned down in a grimace. Killing it, yes. The Ursa was dying. It was the work of minutes rather than moments, but with each passing second that Blake stood by, she watched the beast grow weaker. Little by little its throes diminished. Dark fur turned coarse and gray. Muscles atrophied as its body became old and brittle like so much rotten driftwood. And still her partner didn't relent. He took and took and took until the beast had nothing left to give. Until it collapsed, legs folding beneath its burly bulk. Those ghastly red eyes closed, never to open again. Naruto rode its corpse to the ground with a small sigh and smacked his lips. Thanks for the meal. A beat of awkward silence pushed itself between the two faunas once more. What was that? Blake backpedaled, her mouth open in a small round O of muted confusion as she watched her partner dismount the decaying corpse. That wasn't his semblance. No. It couldn't be. She'd seen it last night. His was a teleportation type, at least she assumed it was used to move short distances at a rapid pace. What the hell was this? He drained that Ursa dry, like a tall glass of water. It had taken him some time and no small amount of effort, sure, but still. He flashed her a wan smile. I could ask you the same thing. Was that a cloned semblance? Don't distract me. You can't have two semblances. She babbled, taking 3 steps back. It's not possible. Not natural. You're right, in a technical sense. He paused to roll his right shoulder with an audible pop. I was born with only one semblance. I gained another. Blake didn't like the implications of that sentence, least of all his tone. He was being mysterious, the bastard. Her keen might caught the hints he'd left, and made the connection. Gained. He'd said gained. That implied that he hadn't had the second semblance, hadn't been born with it. Could he steal semblances, then? And if so, how? It all made a twisted sort of sense. No wonder the headmaster was willing to overlook Naruto's crimes. He wanted him here, in Beacon. Badly. A gift like that could change the world. Or destroy it. She shuddered and hugged her arms close to her chest as a chill swept through her. How pragmatic. Adam would kill for a gift like that. So would the rest of the world. Why tell me this? She asked. Why tell me anything all? Because no one will ever believe you. Naruto tilted his head, then laughed when she blanched. That aside, I decided to make a point. Both to you, and whomever might be watching us. He pointedly looked up at where another camera was no doubt concealed. Earlier, you called me a monster. When he strode forward, Blake near shrank back. Think how many people I could have killed with this. How many I haven't killed. Remember that before you judge me. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Now hold still. His hand pulsed red again, but rather than pain, she experienced a sudden rush of vitality, as if she drank a cup of coffee. Several cups. Death is a cycle, Naruto replied as she looked on in quiet awe. It gives and it takes away. Red eyes faded back to their true blue and lanced into her gold. Healing is a part of that. I choose what to do with the energy I take. I can hoard it, all of it, for myself, or I can use it in the service of others. I don't understand you. She pulled away with a small shiver. You wouldn't be the first. Maybe I was a better person in my first life. He shook his head. I get that feeling sometimes. I really do. But Grimm deserve no mercy. I'll use any and every advantage I have against them. Blake opened her mouth to retort to that effect. Aha! There you are! A low, annoyed voice plucked the words right off her tongue. I thought I heard your voice. Where the hell have you been? Were you hiding or something? For the first time since she'd met him, Naruto's blue eyes sparked with true life once again. He rounded on the sound, for it came from behind them. "That's my line!" Emerald burst out of the undergrowth ahead of them, eyes narrow and cheeks flush with emotion. Said eyes fixed on Naruto, and widened. Narrowed again. The thief didn't move. She bolted. There was a subtle sway in the older girl's hips when she approached them, an almost lazy tense gait that could morph into a dead sprint at the slightest provocation. Her own smile mirrored Naruto's in its intensity. No, it burned brighter still, like a child finding a long-lost friend. He met her halfway. Emerald all but crashed into him and buried her face in his chest with a sound that vaguely resembled a sigh. 10 arms wrapped around his waist like a lasso and held on for dear life. For his part, the blonde didn't make an effort to escape her embrace, even if he could. He simply laid his chin atop her head and patted her back. Blake flushed and looked away as he spoke. "Did you think I'd run away or something?" "Shut up." Emerald growled into his jacket. "Idiot. Stupid. I hate you." "Missed you too," he hummed, planting a chaste kiss against her forehead. She grumbled on and held tighter. All the while, Blake watched them with increasing discomfort. There was no degree of deference between the two of them. They were partners. Equals in all things. Perhaps even lovers. Oddly enough, the thought hurt. It reminded her of Adam. Witnessing such a display made her feel like an outsider. No, she was one, intruding on their moment like this. As if sensing that very thought, Emerald finally noticed her. "Hey, who's the kid?" "Just a tag-along." Naruto answered a little too quickly. "Well, we kinda." "He's my partner." Blake hated to say it, but she knew she was better off with these two than Adam or Ilya. They wouldn't understand. They'd just drag her back to the Fong. She wasn't going back. Not now, not ever. What was the saying the humans used? Better the devil that didn't kill than the one that did? Wait, that wasn't it. Fine. Emerald smiled and it was all teeth. I haven't made eye contact with anyone else myself. Guess that makes him my partner, too. Huh. Naruto blinked. Bit of a technicality, but that works, doesn't it? That's not how the rules work, Blake protested. The two thieves laughed. Nobody carries. Where was everyone? Try as he might, Carden Winchester hadn't seen so much as a single soul in the last hour. Not since that damn fox, at any rate. Just the thought of him made his blood boil anew. His fist tightened around the haft of his mace as he used it to mow down a web of vines in his path. All the while, an angry ember of rage continued to burn in the back of his mind. Bloody bunny lover. This was all his fault. Well, he'd show him. Him and all those freaks. He'd just been caught off guard last time. Yeah. That was it. None of this was his fault. It was all bad luck. Everyone was out to get him. He almost believed it. His launch pad had been one of the first to go off. That alone should have guaranteed him a spot in the upper echelons. Instead, he'd been knocked on his ass and left to fend for himself. Damn fox. He'd make him pay. Now where the hell were his boys? It was quiet here without them. Too quiet. Freaked him right out, it did. A twig snapped behind him. Carden jumped and rounded on the sound. Dove? Sky? That you? Leaves rustled all around him, shifting and bending in the wind. Russell? You there? Somewhere ahead of him he heard a tree creak ominously, as if someone had knocked it down. Or something. Come on, guys, a note of high panic etched itself into the boy's voice as he looked around for its source. This shit ain't funny. Pulling ahead, he made for the first open area he could find, silently praying that it would be the ruin the old man had mentioned. Freaking headmaster. Daylight burst through the trees as he broke free from the branches. A delighted gasp stole its way out of him. With the encroaching branches now behind him, Carden felt as though a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He was just being paranoid. There was nothing to be afraid of here. The Emerald Forest was dangerous, sure, but so was he. He was fearless. He was mighty. He had a freaking two-handed mace for crying out loud. Something wet and cloying sucked against his boot. The hell? The burly teen lifted his foot, frowned at it, and moved on toward the ruin. At first, Carden didn't understand what he was looking at in the distance, if only because the glade before him was a mess of torn earth and dirt. Strange shapes lay scattered about at odd angles, and he didn't understand what they were at first. A silent pang of dread stole over him as he approached. Why were there crows in the sky? Were those even crows at all? Upon closer inspection, he recognized the shapes. They were bodies. Dead bodies. They'd been slaughtered to a man. Not just them, but one or two of the other applicants too, men he didn't recognize. What the shit? 3 of them, he knew. Sky's head had been plucked right off his shoulders and spirited away, leaving his ruined body for the crows. Dove was clutching at what might have been his stomach before something had torn it open. Russelurk. Oh gods. Carden couldn't even look at him. They died hard, all 3 of them. They died fighting. And he hadn't been there. Carden turned and vomited his breakfast into the grass, a lurid green puddle spreading beneath them. He looked up and heaved again. They weren't strong. No, scratch that. He wasn't strong enough. What had he been thinking, coming to Beacon a year early? They weren't ready for something like this. It was his fault. All his fault. He'd been the one to pressure his dad, who had in turn put pressure to Ajban. They'd all wanted to be huntsmen so very badly to be big damn heroes, and now his friends had paid the price for his folly. A low howl echoed through the woods. It was soon taken up by another. Another still. Another. Each louder than the last. Monstrous eyes followed him from the grove he'd left behind, one pair larger than the rest. Far larger. Something impossibly huge loped out of the thicket and into the clearing ahead of him. It was big, far bigger than any Beowulf had any right to be, easily eclipsing his on all fours. Hideous green spikes jutted from its back like porcupine quills as hideous slitted green eyes roved about the grove. Damn thing didn't look right. There was some ghastly metal-bladed thing attached to one of its hind legs that seemed to drag behind it, tearing a deep furrow into the ground as it walked. Looked like it had been welded on by some man. But that wasn't what captured his attention. Carden gulped. You bastard! If its bloody snout and stained claws didn't confirm his suspicions already, Russell's arm did all that and more. He could even see the boy's long daggers jutting out of the beast's back, alongside Dove's short sword and the ruined shaft of Sky's halberd with a number of others. As he looked on, the gigantic creature tossed its head back and swallowed the mangled limb whole. This monster, this bastard, this thing had murdered his friends. His team. If he stood his ground here alone, it would undoubtedly do the same to him. It saw him then. Or perhaps it heard him. Who could say? Regardless, it made a chuffing sound that might have been laughter. Bullshit. Everyone knew that Grim didn't laugh, right? Little pig, little pig, little pig. Oh, what fresh hell was this? Grim couldn't talk at all. So why was this one speaking? Carden's palms grew slick with sweat, and his mace suddenly felt like a lead weight in his hands, his armor, a heavy weight dragging him down. To his dismay, more of the creature's pack emerged from the trees, and still, his legs failed him. One after the other they padded forward, until he could no longer count them. No. He couldn't die here. He had to avenge his friends. But he couldn't do it alone. He knew that. Strength meant nothing against these numbers. And yet if he ran, they'd run him down in a matter of minutes, if not sooner. The lead Beowulf threw back its head and loosed a mighty howl that rattled the air itself. What little remained of Carden's resolve broke. He scarpered. And the pack gave chase. Blake heard the howl first. It was a decidedly shrill sound, one that laid the poor girl's ears flat against her head. There seemed to be no end to it, echoing on and on behind them, before being taken up by another and another. Each cry echoed in the distance, long and lilting, as though a dozen voices were crying out in unison. "Hoo boy," Naruto grimaced, pausing to peel back a branch for her and Emerald to duck under. "That sounded close. We better keep moving." The younger fauna scurried after the two thieves, shadowing their every movement for fear of being left behind. She didn't want to be alone in this forest now. Not after hearing that. It was close. Too close. Golden eyes flitted this way and that, half expecting a Grim to come crashing out of the trees at any moment. When none came, she found herself stressed all the more. It wasn't helped when said thieves exchanged a worried look between themselves. "Beowulf?" Emerald posited. "Sounds like a whole pack of them," Naruto retorted. "Better keep moving before we get bogged down." Someone screamed again. Louder than before. This time, it sounded almost human. Blake grimaced against it. "Aren't we going to do something?" Naruto flicked a reluctant glance over his shoulder. "No." Emerald shot Blake's hopes down before they could truly take flight. "If we double back now, we won't be able to get a relic in time. You know that, Naruto." "Suppose you're right." He sighed and moved on. "It's a pity, but we can't save everyone, Blake." The little fauna stomped after him with a scowl. "I thought you helped people." "We're thieves, not heroes." Her partner hastened his stride, forcing her to jog after him and Emerald lest she be left behind. "We can't save everyone." A muscle jumped in her jaw and harsh words leaped to her lips, ready to explode into the air. It took all she had just to choke them down. Calling him out for this would only make her seem a hypocrite. At the end of the day she'd come to Beacon to hide, not to stand out. Still, to leave someone to the Grim like that, it smacked of cruelty. She didn't like it. Another shout went up far closer than the last. That sounded like Carden. "Then nothing of value will be lost." Just like that, any trace of compassion vanished from the blonde's eyes. "There's no helping that one. Trust me, I speak from experience." "But..." "Say we did double back to help him and his friends." Emerald skirted around a fallen tree and held up a finger. "Do you think Carden would thank you for it?" "No," she shook her head. "Putting aside the fact that he's a big oaf, Carden hates faunas, loathes anyone seen working with them. I know his type. Probably has something to do with his father, that." Naruto sidled up beside her, guarding her flank. "Do you really want to give up your chance at becoming a huntress for someone like him?" Blake flinched anew and her ears drooped again. It hurt to admit it, but Naruto had a point. The Winchester name was infamous for all the wrong reasons. His family had fought in the war, after all. That alone lent them something of a reputation, never mind what she'd already seen of the brash boy thus far. Low profile or no, Carden hadn't made the best impression on her. Besides, Emerald saw her weakness and pounced like the thief she was. Ashbin and the other teachers are watching. They wouldn't let a potential student die on their watch, right? I suppose. Run for your lives. A shrieking blur of blood and dented metal tore out of nowhere to shoulder barge Blake from behind, sending her spinning into Naruto. Her fellow faunas caught her quickly, but before he had a chance to so much as blink at her attacker they shot past, screaming bloody murder. In a moment they were gone, crashing through the undergrowth with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball. Emerald twitched. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Was that Carden?" "Was it?" Naruto helped Blake to her feet with a shrug. "Didn't get a good look at him. Why was he running?" An ear-splitting snarl perforated the forest. Naruto raised his shield and Emerald drew her sickles with a put-upon groan. "You just had to ask." This time Blake heard the Grim coming long before she saw the beast, if only because it was impossible to miss. A great hulking beast burst through the brush, snorting loudly as it searched in vain for its victim. Failing to find Carden, it bounded in their direction instead, prior prey all but forgotten. This one wasn't normal either, for reasons Blake couldn't understand. Ghastly green spines jutted from its back, and its sickly green eyes, they weren't supposed to be that color, burned with an overwhelming hunger. She could see the hate in its gaze, a seething desire to rip and tear all that lived, and something in her shrank back from it. She watched its jaw work wordlessly as it crept closer, almost as if it were trying to talk. Nonsense. Grim didn't talk. She was imagining things. Naruto saw her fear and pushed her back. Hey, just let us handle this one, alright? It's alright if you're still a little spooked. Blake hated herself for such weakness, yet nodded all the same. Left? Naruto asked, flicking a look at Emerald. His partner rolled her eyes and jabbed his sight. Right. Together, the thieves absolutely surged forward in flawless unison. For reasons Blake didn't understand, the Beowulf went for Naruto first. Perhaps it was the bright colors he wore, or perhaps it was simply a matter of proximity. She couldn't be sure. Regardless, the whiskered warrior was more than prepared. He met the beast head-on and caught a clawed paw on one shield like the tank she'd come to think of him. He latched out with the other and caught its other limb before it could draw back and attack him again. Moments later, a faint red miasma began to bleed from his right arm as he drained his prey. Blake recognized his semblance. The Grim, unfortunately, did not, and struggled fruitlessly in his grasp. Naruto smacked his lips. Thanks for the meal, big guy. His free fist swung back like a piston and slammed into the Grim's gut with a horrible crunch, bending the beast double. From there, he latched onto his right arm with both hands and ripped it away. Grim didn't bleed as living creature did, but they still felt pain. True to form, this one howled in mindless rage and lashed out with its remaining paw. Rather than evade, Naruto turned and raised his remaining shield to intercept, allowing it to flail uselessly against him, to no avail. Even from here, Blake saw his blue eyes dance with devilish light as he tanked the storm of blows. So focused was the beast on its prey that it failed to notice Emerald creeping up on its flank. The Grim certainly noticed when a chain sickle swept around its throat. Glowing eyes bulged for all of a moment before the green-haired thief landed on its back and unloaded her weapons into its spine. Even then the Grim didn't go down. It only thrashed in agony and howled anew as it sought to rip her head off. Emerald did not dodge. No, she danced out of the way, tumbled down its back with deadly grace, and used the chain to yank it down again. Bereft of balance, the beast came crashing down to earth, where a smiling Naruto awaited with all the patience of a stalking fox. It didn't last long after that. With a grim smile, the berserker stepped in, smacked the Grim down with a shield when it tried to rise, and brought two empowered fists crashing down on the beast's skull. Dark fur and white bone yielded like so much putty, creating an awful crack. Blake felt something tiny quail in her as Grim's corpse began to dissolve. That hadn't been a fight. It was an execution. Heh. We've still got it. Naruto raised a hand and Emerald stepped forward to slap her palm against his. One and done. He clicked his tongue. See, Blake? He turned to face her. Nothing to worry about here. What did I tell you? All around them, the brush began to stir. Countless glowing eyes surveyed them from the tree lean. Emerald hissed through her teeth. Change of plans, kitty cat. Run. Now. What? Just run. Blake yelped as Naruto spun, gave her a shove and urged her onward. A dark shape lunged at him when she turned her back and he ducked beneath a claw larger than his head. The blonde plucked something from his belt and flung it down on the ground between them. Against her better judgment, Blake turned away. Even then the flash bang left her sensitive ears ringing. Go, go, go! Emerald urged her forward, voice muffled in the chaos. Too little too late, something emerged from the trees ahead of them, cutting their retreat off. As far as Grim went, these were even larger than the last and just as warped, bigger than anything she'd seen. Worse, they didn't look right. All green and black and twisted, their ghastly bodies seemed to shimmer with unnatural light as they shambled towards them. More came after. Many more. Too many. Outmaneuvered by Grim. Naruto groused. Coco's never going to let us hear the end of this. What now? Emerald whispered. I'll draw their attention. Blue eyes burned red again. You two scatter. Wait, you're not going to? Swinging his arms, the blonde stalked forward. Come here, you filthy mutts. A rough edge overtook his words as his body began to shimmer. I'll make a meal out of you. One swing of an empowered arm sheared through the skull of a Beowulf's who dared creep too close. On the backswing he caught a second wolf by the leg and whipped it forward into its fellows, sending them sprawling like a bunch of broken bowling pins. Is that all? His voice rose in a taunt. I thought you lot were grim, not puppies. Another leaped at him, and he caught it on his shield, levering its bulk into the ground. Scarlet eyes burned with deathly flames as he stomped its skull to mud. His hand shot out, found another grim by the throat, and latched on. It shriveled in his grasp and his muscles pulsed with fresh life. Casting its corpse aside, he stalked forward, banging his shields together. His very being seemed to shimmer with crimson light now, almost as if it were a living thing, like a shroud, no, a cloak of some sort. Still, he slammed his shields together. Every grim turned toward him as one. That's right, you son of a bitches. He boomed a laugh. Here. He banged his shields together once more. Right here. Come and get me if you think you're hard enough. Sure enough, the rest closed in on him. Naruto threw himself at them like a madman, swinging and striking, ripping and tearing. That's his semblance acting up again. Emerald sighed as Blake balked. He tends to go berserk when it comes to situations like this. Drawing her weapons once more, she waded into the fray after him, her body already beginning to blur. Go on. You're not ready for a fight like this yet. We'll catch up with you. She hesitated. Just go. We've faced worse odds than this. Blake's traitorous legs needed no further encouragement. She made it all of a few yards before one of the slavering grim intercepted her frantic flight. She lashed out without thinking, sending its head spinning away, but another stepped in to take its place. Unlike the last, this one was larger, and worse, this one showed no fear. It was the eyes. Those terrible, horrible eyes. They pierced right through her as it growled, blood still dripping from white jaws. She froze like a deer in the headlights, and sensing her fear, the beast closed in. Gamble's shroud barked furiously in her grasp, to no avail. Bullets pinged harmlessly off its hide. It chuffed softly and hastened its stride. What had she been thinking? She was too young. She wasn't ready for this. She couldn't, she wouldn't, she was going to. Still the grim came on, those horrid eyes fixed on her. Its jaw popped open as it crept closer. Little cat. Wait, did it just talk? A bronze meteor fell onto the beast's back from on high and bore it down to the ground with a war cry. Blake's jaw popped open. Her savior didn't so much fall upon the grim as she did crash into it, physically pinning it to the earth with her spear. The creature perished before it truly knew what happened. Its killer, a girl in bronze and gold armor, rode their dissolving body to the ground with an awkward grace, stumbling on the landing with only the faintest hint of hesitation. Thank goodness. A familiar voice hummed. Looks like I made it in time. Are you all right? Blake spied red hair and bright green eyes framed by a nervous smile as her savior helped her stand. With the other she plucked her spear free, and with a segmented click, the weapon collapsed back into the form of a short sword. She felt the faintest stirrings of envy at the sight, at her grace, at her fearlessness. I'm Pyrrha. The girl introduced herself. Pyrrha Nikos. Blake. She clasped her hand and replied in kind. Just Blake. Oddly enough, Her apparent lack of recognition seemed to please the redhead for some reason Blade didn't understand. I knew I made the right decision coming here a year early, her savior preened. Then she realized she was staring. I'm sorry, that was rude of me. Her hands flailed for a flustered moment. But I don't suppose you have a partner? You're the first person I've seen thus far. Blake nodded her head numbly. Sorry. Already do. Don't be. The redhead beamed. I just. Why are you still here? Emerald stumbled through the trees, and the younger girls rounded on her with a start. There's too many grim in these words. Too much cover for them, too. Find an open area. Only then did she notice Pyrrha. Oh. It's you. The green-haired girl blinked and reached out to thumb a bit of dirt from the younger girl's cheek. Hey, Squirt. Glad you found us. I knew it really is you. Pyrrha breathed the words out with scarcely disguised glee, her grin nigh on euphoric. I finally found you. Is that Little Red? Perfect timing. Naruto stumbled up beside Emerald, limping slightly. We could use some help here. Pyrrha preened. I'd be happy to. Blake was beginning to wonder if she'd missed something here. Apparently these three knew each from some prior meeting, one she wasn't privy to. Whatever the case, the newcomer was all too happy to assist. Together the four of them beat a hasty retreat. Naruto and Pyrrha linked their shields and bore the brunt of their pursuers' wrath. Emerald harried them from the high ground, leaping from tree to tree, taking shots wherever she could, slinging her chains into any grim unlucky enough to stray far from the pack. Blake couldn't bring herself to help them. Fear still gripped her heart in an icy vice. She felt like nothing. No, less than nothing. It galled her that she had to be protected like this, least of all when she knew how to fight. Pyrrha was the same age as her, and she showed no such hesitation, whirling and slashing alongside Naruto without a care in the world. She wanted that courage. Needed it. Craved it. When the next grim overtook them, something snapped. Blake leaped at it with a shriek, dove under its claws and speared it under the chin with her weapon. It collapsed with a wordless gurgle, and tried to rise. Gamble's shroud was having none of it. Her weapon hacked down once. Twice. Thrice. When one of its brothers bounded at her, she snagged a limb with her weapon's ribbon, yanked them down, and slashed at their throat. Oh, great. Naruto sighed. She's blooded. Blake snarled at him. Say that again. Easy there, kitty cat. Eventually their measured retreat allowed them to gain enough ground to make a break for it. Naruto lobbed another flashbang into the melee when the pack attempted to pursue, drawing a chorus of angry growls and howls from the beasts. Some of them stumbled after them, reeling from the grenade's aftereffects. Even then, the rest of them tried to pursue. A piercing howl stopped them in their tracks, almost as if something were calling them back. Blake bristled at the sound of it. What was that? Too big for the four of us, that's what. Naruto yanked her backwards when she tried to pursue. I'm glad you finally found your courage, but there's a fine line between recklessness and suicide. From there they retreated swiftly, never quite turning their backs on the pack even as the last of them melted away into the trees. Their little group didn't relax. Rather, they couldn't. Everyone expected another enemy to materialize at any moment. When they failed to do so, that only made the tension worse. 5 minutes after the fact, they reluctantly lowered their guard, but still moved at a brisk pace. Pyrrha was the first one to break the stifling silence that threatened to swallow them whole. Well, she groused, rubbing a bruised shoulder, that wasn't grand. Naruto snickered. Emerald snorted softly. Blake bit back a hysteric giggle. That set off an avalanche of nervous laughter amongst their little quartet. They'd fought and bled together, after all. There was no better camaraderie than that. Against all odds, they'd come together, found one another, and triumphed. This was what it felt like to be a team. Blake found she rather liked it. It felt freeing. Cleansing. With each step, all her fears and doubts slowly washed away. In its place came certain pride, even. She could see herself working with these three, dysfunctional though they were. Naruto and Emerald might have their own warped sense of moral injustice, but at least they weren't killers. Moreover, they weren't Adam. No matter how vicious they might be in a fight. Pira was nice, too. They were both nearly the same age, two fledglings trying to make a name for themselves in the world, to step out of the shadows brought by their family names. And she did recognize hers. Pira Nico was something of an infamous name, even among the White Fang. Wisely, she'd chosen not to mention it. Something told her only sadness and sorrow awaited her down that road. Golden eyes drifted back to the unlikely trio ahead of her. Watched as Emerald rubbed Pira's hair fondly. Maybe she could have a life here after all. We worked pretty well together, I think. Naruto gave one last chuckle and wiped a mirthful tear from the corner of his eye. 2 tanks and 2 rogues. Pretty balanced, I'd say. Blake felt her ears twitch in mild curiosity. Tanks? Rogues? What are you on about? Is that supposed to mean something? Just an old RPG slang. Emerald waved her concerns down. He's a bit of a gamer, don't mind him. Naruto arched a blonde brow. Says the girl who likes to cosplay. Why, just the other day. Emerald turned beet red and launched a pebble at him. Laughter flowed freely. All told, it was almost a relief to find the relics waiting for them. In all honesty, Naruto almost expected an attack when they finally broke through the thicket and reached their destination. After the afternoon they'd had, he was sure Emerald and the rest expected much the same. An ambush, an explosion, a trick of some sort. Something that would inevitably set them back once more. As soon as she saw the altars and the relics placed atop them, his heart leaped. All the horrors they'd endured to get here made it worth it. When no such threat emerged, he released a breath he hadn't even realized he'd been holding. This must be the ruins then. Finally. Feels like we've been walking forever. Emerald elbowed him. What gave it away, dumbass? Ah, you do care. Rather than be offended, he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Told ya I'd grown on you. TCH, like bad mold. She elbowed him away, and the words held no rancor. Go on, get moving. You're practically vibrating. In truth, he wasn't even sure how much leaping from one grim to the next. His body certainly reflected that much. Everything ached. His arms throbbed, his eyes burned, and there was an uncomfortable buzzing sensation in the back of his head, a sure sign that he'd overexerted his semblance. Yet at the same time he felt content. Sated. He drank his full from every grim they'd encountered and then some. He felt like he could take on the world right now. That wasn't a good sign. He'd need to find a way to safely burn off all this excess energy soon. Holding on to so much power for so long had side effects. The last time he'd hoarded too much energy for himself, he'd gone berserk. Best not to dwell on that. Empowering his legs with just a little bit more power than was strictly necessary, he surged forward, reaching the altar before allies. He all but felt Emerald roll her eyes and jogged after him. Young Blake and little Pira brought up the rear, exchanging wondering looks for their surroundings. A small, traitorous smile twitched at the corner of Naruto's mouth. Emerald aside, they weren't the friends he'd asked for, or even thought to need. Yet he found himself smiling at them all the same. Here it was. This was the new life he and Emerald had longed for, and so much more. The 4 of them had fought together, grown. He wanted to look after them. Protect them. Keep them safe. This team, assuming they accepted the offer he was about to make, would be better than the last. This time, everyone would live. Not like Sasuke and Sakura. Wait. Who were they? Why had he said their names? A spike of bitter red agony rammed itself through Naruto's skull and he stumbled, nearly planting his face in one of the stone altars. Sasuke. Sakura. The names burned in the back of his mind like twin brands, sharp and hot and terribly painful. He clutched at his head, hissing between his teeth. A familiar voice cried out in his ears, longing to be heard. Remember! It cried out to him. This isn't you. Remember! Remember what? Naruto clicked his teeth in irritation. He felt as if he were on the verge of recalling some great and terrible truth, but it slipped through his fingers when he tried to grasp it. He bent double and bit his tongue until he tasted blood in his mouth. That sharp, bitter tang snapped him back to reality. All right? The blonde blinked and found Emerald's red eyes peering at him. She'd reached him before the others, though having seen him collapse, Blake and Pyrrha were already hastening to his side. Shaking his head and tossing his bangs aside, the whiskered warrior willed the strange sensation away and forced himself to smile. It felt brittle on his face, as though it might crack at any moment. Whatever it is, ignore it. Naruto muttered himself, shaking his head. Suppress it. It's nothing, he said. Just a headache. Emerald chewed her lip nervously and stepped forward. You're sure? She laid a hand on his arm. You've been getting those a lot lately. I'm fine, all right? He touched his hand to hers. It's just a migraine. Nothing's wrong. Trust me. I do. Dark fingers curled around his, but she didn't pull away. Just be careful, all right? I can't lose you. Naruto flinched at the reminder. He'd fallen ill when they were little. Once. It had been a raging fever, one that nearly killed him. Emerald had bawled her eyes out. Even after he'd managed to recover, she hadn't left his side for weeks afterward. If something happened to him, or gods forbid, if someone ever hurt him, he wasn't sure what she'd do. He wasn't sure he wanted to find out. On a whim he stepped into her and kissed her forehead. Emerald's face flamed and she slammed her head into his neck to hide it. Hey, have some faith! This time, his smile felt more natural to him, less brittle than before. I've gotten us this far, haven't I? That mollified her enough to pull away, though her fingers lingered in his a bit longer than they should have before she tugged them free. As the rest of them drew closer, they saw these so-called relics for what they were. They weren't mystical items, nor sacred tomes, or any such thing. For all his talk about relics and teamwork, the headmaster had failed to mention how ordinary the items in question would be. He'd expected a lamp, or a staff, a crown, or perhaps even a sword. Not this. Chess pieces? Emerald scoffed. Really? Naruto didn't answer. He simply stepped forward. Right then, he mumbled to himself. Guess it's decision time. Someone was already here by the look of it. Pyrrha indicated a pair of vacant altars. They beat us here. Seems so. Naruto hummed. There's still plenty to go around, by the look of it. Ashbin must have been yanking our chain. A tan hand snatched up a golden knight piece, which in turn caused Emerald to choose the corresponding one. He'd expected that much. They were a package deal, after all. Such a little thing. He muttered the words softly, turning it over in his hand. And yet it decides our fates. Funny. Blue eyes flickered over their ragtag little group. So? How are we going to do this? He asked. Blake's my partner, as is Emerald, thanks to a technicality. But Pyrrha, he indicated the nervous redhead with a wave, then drew her into his side when she still dithered on the sidelines. Made eye contact with Blake, who, as I said, partnered with me. Emerald palmed her forehead. This is confusing. Incoming. With sound and aplomb, Coco Adele came crashing through the thicket, flanked by a number of applicants that Naruto failed to recognize. She saw them at once and snapped off a jaunty wave as she jogged their way. In so doing, she also drew his attention to the massive towering weapons slung almost casually over the older girl's shoulder. Was that a Gatling gun? Looks like you beat us here, she groaned, sauntering up to them. So much for our shortcut. Then her eyes fell upon the rest of their party, and her crestfallen expression only worsened. Ah, shoot! The brunette kicked one heel at the grass as she saw the four of them. Looks like you found yourself a partner. Naruto smiled wistfully at Blake. Yeah. Guess I did. And I found mine. Emerald latched onto his arm like a limpet. Huh. Neat. Coco blinked, catching on quickly. Way to use a loophole there, Greenie. Introductions then. She clapped her hands together. The big guy over there's Yatsuhashi. Naruto turned his head in acknowledgement, only to realize he actually had to look up at the young man to greet him and return his nod. Holy crap. Coco hadn't been kidding. Yatsuhashi was an absolute giant of a being, and one clad in green leathers with matching armor. The sword slung over his back was nearly as large as he was tall. Seriously, what did you eat to get that big? And the quiet one's Fox, his partner. Coco indicated a dark-skinned youth with white eyes and red hair, clad in crimson leathers and wielded curved blades to match. He's not much of a talker. Got something to do with his semblance, I think. Indeed. The voice that greeted him didn't come from the man's mouth, but his mind. Naruto blinked, momentarily startled by it. Any discomfort he might have felt vanished when the redhead offered a hand in greeting. He stepped forward and clasped it readily. Telepathy, eh? He whistled as he released Fox's forearm. That's a handy ability. I'm kinda jealous. Jealous? Yeah. Sure. Right. Emerald huffed softly in his ear. Says the teleporting psycho with the freakin' drain touch ability. Why the hell wouldn't you be jealous? And I'm sure you two remember Velvet here. Coco lowered her shades and winked. Don't tell me you forgot about our favorite Bun Bun? Coco! The faunus in question swatted her arm, to no avail. Why are you always like this? Like what? The gunner planted a hand on her hip and beeped her head. Arg. They're certainly an interesting bunch, Blake hazarded as she watched her fellow faunus flail at Coco. Emerald's elbow dug into her side. Sweetie, you have no idea. Pyrrha giggled softly. Still, it brought up another, less pleasant question. Coco and her friends had come hammering out of the forest with undue speed, almost as if something were chasing them. Naruto risked a glance over their shoulders, half expecting a horde of Grimm to come racing in, hot on their heels. No such luck. The Emerald Forest remained quiet. Almost eerily so. In the end, curiosity won the day and he had to ask. What kept you? Naruto asked. Had to deal with a giant death stalker. The gunner chirped. You. Just about the same thing, Emerald slapped a hand against her thigh. The four us ran into a pack of mutated Beowulf. Blake shuddered, as though remembering something foul. I think one of them talked. All eyes turned to the young faunus. And then? Nah. Nope. No way. Surely not. That's impossible. Grimm, do not speak. Hey, are you sure you didn't imagine it? Despite each of their protests, Blake set her jaw and stomped a foot. I know what I heard. A sudden and fiery explosion deeper within the forest put paid to those very words. Pyrrha craned her neck. Somehow, I don't think they're a problem anymore. Tenlin says that's Cinder and her boy toy. Coco shuddered and clutched her arms close to her chest. Right scary bitch, that one. Don't wanna mess with her. Speaking of messes, this piece of shit to anyone? She jerked an awkward thumb over her shoulder and Naruto finally noticed the quivering form of Carden crouched behind Yatsuhashi. Despite himself, the blonde grimaced. Winchester looked well and truly out of sorts. Even now he was mumbling to himself, head in his hands. Russell Skydove dead, they're all dead. We found him like this hiding behind a tree. Velvet whispered, ears drooping in distress as she watched him. He won't say anything else. No? Coco clicked her tongue. Pity. Guess we'll throw him to the headmaster or something when we get back. All dead, all dead. Carden? Against his better judgment, an emerald's hissing Naruto pushed past Yatsuhashi and knelt before the younger boy. What happened? Who died? Can you tell us? Wild eyes snapped up and locked onto him. You stupid fox. Pale hands surged up and locked around his throat, trying to wring the life from his lungs. In his weakened state, Carden had no more strength than an mewling infant. They're dead because of you. If you just partnered with me, none of this shit would have happened. It's your fault. Still he babbled on, livid and frothing at the mouth. Not mine. All your fault. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Coco cried. What the hell are you doing, Winchester? Are you cracked? Let go of him, you fiend. Pira started forward, only for Naruto to fling a hand up. It's fine. He sighed. He's right to be angry with me. Even as Carden attempted to choke him, the whiskered warrior tensed the muscles in his throat, reached up and pried those fevered fingers away from his throat. Blue eyes pulsed red and the boy's crazed assault withered as his remaining strength was stolen from his very veins. When he faltered completely, the blonde reared back and him dead in the face with a fist. Carden toppled to the ground like a fallen tree, head lolling to one side. He did not rise again. Naruto did, however. Somebody give him a relic. He grunted, massaging his neck. He'll hate us for it when he wakes up, but he's a survivor. He's earned his right to be in Beacon. Has he? Emerald scoffed. All I see is a scared little boy. Are you sure that's wise? Pira murmured. Was he? No, not at all. But an annoying thorn of guilt wouldn't let him be. Looking back, he could have partnered up with Carden. He would have hated every second of it, but there was no denying that he might have been able to help his friends survive had he been there. But he didn't, and he hadn't, and there could be no changing the past. He'd just have to live with it. As he did all things. Just do it. Fox and Yatsuhashi wandered off to do just that. Naruto took the opportunity to look around. Carden's outburst had sapped the joy from their little gathering, as surely as a mortal wound. To make matters worse, he rustled again and another group emerged from the copse of trees nearby. Naruto offered a silent prayer that it would be a band of strangers, not who he thought it was. His prayers weren't answered. See? Adam Taurus emerged, flaked by Ilya Amatola. I knew I heard something. Then the redhead saw Blake. Moreover, Blake saw him, and her face went bone white. Naruto's heart shuddered to a stop in his chest. He'd suspected that Adam and Ilya had come here for her. He'd even said as much. From the beginning he'd known that Adam was here for a reason, that he had a purpose. He braced himself for an explosion, for shouting, for anger, for something. It never came. There was no anger on Adama's part, no hatred, no spite. He looked tired. Indeed, his suspicions were proven correct a moment later when Ilya cried out and threw herself into Blake head-on. Found you! She cried out in triumph. To her credit, his partner didn't run away, if only because Ilya was just too damn quick. The smaller girl hit her like an arrow and latched onto her. Ilya's skin flashed 7 shades of varying colors before she finally settled on a deep, rosy pink, as she buried her head against Blake's shoulder. Realizing she wasn't going to escape anytime soon, Belladonna sighed and unbent enough to awkwardly pat Ilya's head and stroke her hair. True to form, the chameleon fauness practically mewed and nestled her face deeper still, content to take what comfort she could, while she could. Not so Adam, who made the mistake of taking a step forward. Screw you! Much to Naruto's dismay, Blake took one look at Taurus and backpedaled herself behind him, accidentally dragging Ilya with her. Not a word. You stay away from me. I'm afraid I can't do that. Adam blew out a sharp, irritated breath. It reminded Naruto of a bull. We'll discuss this later. You're coming back with us. No. There won't be a later. Blake poked her head around Naruto's back with a hiss. I never want to see you again. Adam flinched as if she'd slapped him across the face. She may as well have. Naruto saw the spark of anger there, knew what would happen if given the chance to fester. He'd seen hatred before. This, well, it wasn't quite that, but he didn't like what he saw all the same. So he spun around and swatted Blake on the shoulder. The startled girl recoiled with a yelp. What was that for? For a fleeting moment, Naruto considered giving Blake a swift kick in the rear for good measure. It was only her sullen expression that stopped him. Honestly, it was like herding cats. There was some irony to be had there, but he dare not speak it. He suspected Blake might try and claw his eyes out if he gave voice to his thoughts. Did it ever occur to you that he might want to change for your sake? Blake grumbled something best left unsaid and buried her head into his back. I hate to break up this touching reunion, Coco coughed, but that still leaves the matter of teams. Everyone went terribly still. Coco opened her mouth to continue, but Adam buelled his way to the front with a silent glower. To his credit, the young man didn't draw his sword yet. His expression proved telling enough. Come on, Whiskers! Coco clicked her tongue. We don't have all day. Make your choice already. Who are you and Blake gonna work with? Emerald turned pleading eyes on him. You can't be serious. It's not even a choice, right? It was like an arrow in the heart. Irk. Naruto sucked in a sharp breath through his teeth. Well, this didn't bode well. Everyone's eyes fell upon him. Pira's guilty expression certainly didn't help matters any. Poor girl looked like she'd been shot. Exasperated, the whiskered warrior flung his arms up into the air. What are you looking at me for? In the end, Cardan Winchester wasn't accepted into Beacon. Naruto wasn't quite sure why the news relieved him while he waited for his name to be called. Only that it did. Bully though Cardan might have been, he'd felt obligated to at least try to help the younger boy after fate screwed him over so badly. Alas, the headmaster had taken on look at the poor boy and sent him packing with 3 words. Not mentally sound. 3 little words put the boy's career to death. Just as well, too, Cardan was a quivering wreck. He'd never be the same after this. He might not even recover his mind. His father had tried to push him into the life of a hunter a year early. While that might not seem like a lot to someone, for those trained in the art of killing, it was an eternity. If Boy's friends had paid the price for his folly with their lives, then so too had Cardan's fragile psyche. Still, the knowledge that Naruto had tried absolved him of his guilt somewhat. He made an enemy, make no mistake, but it was an enemy he'd be ready for come the future. More than could be said for. An elbow nudged his ribs with firm gentleness, jarring the blonde out of his dark thoughts. You all right? He turned to find a familiar pair of red eyes gazing back at him, fraught with concern. A smile creased the corner of his mouth. I'm fine, Em. Just thinking about the future. He reached around to wrap an arm around her waist, pulling her close as the milling crowd pressed in around them. She stiffened in surprise but didn't resist. On the contrary. Her head touched his shoulder as she squeezed in closer, heedless of the curious looks she attracted. Emerald didn't pay them any mind, she never did. His partner was many things, but shy? Nope. Never. She could spit and swear with the best of them, if only because she didn't give a flying fig what others thought of her. Didn't stop Naruto from glaring bloody red daggers at a few curious boys, though. Bastards looked away soon enough. On a whim he dipped down to kiss her forehead. Emerald made to jerk back with a sputter, then realized that would mean relinquishing her hold of him and the warmth afforded by coat and tail alike. Her nose wrinkled a little until he kissed that too. Her expression was one for the ages. For a moment he was reminded of the little girl he'd first picked up off the street. Simpler times then? That's cheating. She whined, burying her head against his shoulder. You're a dirty cheater, Naruto. How so? A blonde brow rose as he smirked. You never complained when we were younger. She stamped a foot. I'm not a little kid anymore, Naruto. No, you're not, he agreed. We've grown up. A wistful smile stole over her visage. We really have, haven't we? A beat of comfortable silence draped itself over the two of them like a warm blanket as they watched Ashbin call yet another team to the stage. How many was that now? 3? They applauded politely for them with the others. Naruto didn't bother to remember their names or faces. He didn't recognize the young men and women standing up there, much less recall their names. Theirs would be called shortly, and with it, the beginning of a new life. It had proven a bit rockier than he might have liked, but it was theirs. Do you regret it? He turned to look at Emerald. Choosing me. She nuzzled against him. You didn't have to choose me. She was talking about the choice he'd made back in the forest some hours ago. Silly girl. Why would he regret it? Things had admittedly been tense for a moment back there, but in the end he made the only decision he possibly could. Some hadn't been happy with it, voices had been raised and weapons nearly drawn, but in the end he made them see sense. For better or worse, mostly better, he'd made his choice. What are you blabbering on about? Course I did. This time his grin felt genuine as he pressed his forehead to hers. Love ya? Emerald's face turned a fascinating shade of rosy chocolate as she slapped his arm. Don't say it so casually. He laughed and squeezed her tight. But it's true. Ahem. Atop the stage, Headmaster Ashbin adjusted the microphone and cleared his throat, commandeering their attention once more. Would Naruto Uzumaki, Emerald Sustrai, Blake Belladonna, and Pira Nico please come forward? Emerald stiffened in his arms. Moment of truth. Pira swallowed at his elbow, jade eyes regarding the headmaster with trepidation. Well, that's us. I suppose it's time. Blake regarded the stage warily. Her ears twitched, easily visible without her bow. Like a skittish kitten, ready to bolt. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all, she muttered. I'm not ready for. Emerald saw her fear and latched onto the smaller girl's elbow before she could. Oh, no you don't, kitty cat. You're stuck with us now. Golden eyes widened as she gave her a watery smile. Do you really mean that? Quick! Naruto and Pira dove on her. Get her while she's weak. I've got her legs. Hey! Together the three of them bundled the frightful faunus between them to prevent her escape as they hastened up onto stage. If the headmaster noticed their anxiety or their antics, he didn't make a point of it. Keen eyes took them in one by one, lingering only for a moment on the last of them with a bemused smile. Not for the first time, Naruto wondered what the man was thinking, allowing known criminals into Beacon. He couldn't be that blind. He was up to something, though he knew not what. The four of you each retrieved the Black Knight pieces and earned your place here in Beacon. Ashbin gestured grandly to each of them before turning to face the crowd of students anew. From this day forward you shall work together as Team Nebula. A smattering of applause greeted them. Coco whistled loudly somewhere within the crowd. How the hell are we a nebula? Naruto hissed through his teeth. Pira offered him a helpless shrug. Maybe it's a color thing? Sure. Emerald elbowed them both, but it was too late. I'm sorry, Ashbin arched a benevolent brow at Naruto. Did you have something to say, young man? He nearly did, but Emerald elbowed him into silence. Nope. He settled for a shrug instead. He heard Blake groan beside him. Very good. A hand came down on his shoulder, rooting him where he stood. As team leader, it will fall to you to guide your allies going forward. That pale palm patted him once and came away with subtle smile. May you continue to lead them well. TCH. He'd seen that bit of leadership on the cameras, hadn't he? Sneaky bastard. I'll be expecting great things from you. And why does that not fill me with confidence? Oh gods, this is gonna be the Atlas job all over again, isn't it? Ashbin's words caught up with him a moment later. Blue eyes fluttered in a rapid blink. Eh? Team leader? Naruto slammed a finger to his chest. Me? Ashbin's smile reminded him of his own. Indeed. Is this a punishment? He frowned. Get off my stage, please. Naruto absolutely twitched as he all but vaulted back to the main floor. Emerald actually had the gall to snicker as followed him, leaving little Blake and Pirat to trail after them with baffled expressions. So, she wanted to play that way, did she? There would be a reckoning for this. Emerald was losing her cuddle privileges tonight. And him? Leading a team? He didn't like it. Sure, someone had to lead, but why him? Frankly, he didn't want the responsibility. Emerald he got on with alright, they knew one another's tricks inside and out, but the idea of being responsible for poor Pira's well-being, let alone Blake. So, Pira ventured, drawing his attention, can we stay and see what the other teams will be? If you like. Naruto offered her a self-same smile. I don't really care one way or the other. Blake turned pleading golden eyes on him. Can we not? I'd rather hit the hay. I say yes, Emerald disagreed. I want to see the competition. Blake wilted, accepting defeat. Don't be like that, kiddo. Naruto soothed. We'll go out for seafood later. And just like that, she perked back up again. Promise? He couldn't help but smile. Yup. I say we take bets on team names. Emerald chimed in before Blake could press for more than that. No way are we going to be the only oddballs here. Naruto had a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. Where did you even get the money to bet? We spent most of ours. Red eyes blinked but once. Stole some. A blue eye twitched. From who? Just about everyone, really. Emerald. Even us? Pira posited. Nah, not you too. She waved her concerns away. Your family. Naruto wasn't sure if she noticed the pleased noises Blake and Pira made. He certainly did. Can we get in on that wager? Coco sauntered toward them, with Velvet only a beat behind. The fauness perked up when she saw the four of them, ears standing ramrod straight as she dared a tentative little wave. One the four of them returned. Belatedly, Naruto found that recognized the young men behind her. Fox and blasted at all, what was the other one's name? Ah, Yatsuhashi. The gentle giant saw them next and nodded a subtle greeting of his own as Fox did the same. You guys go ahead. Coco made a shooing gesture. Vel and I want to have a few words with Whiskers here. As you wish. Yatsu bowed at the waist. We'll be close by if you need us. Fox, as ever, remained curiously silent. Naruto watched them go with a shake of the head. Those two looked might seem odd, but there could be no denying their strength. The Emerald Forest ate weaklings alive. That they were here at all spoke of their skill at arms, if not their mental acumen. Reliable enough. They were strong. Coco and Velvet would be in good hands. Still, that could have been him. He imagined it for a moment, then immediately dismissed it. Another life, perhaps. So no hard feelings? He offered Coco a palm. I don't want there to be any bad blood between us. Nah, the fashionista met his raised hand and slapped him a quick high five. We're cool. You've got your girls to look after and I've got mine. Coco! Velvet made a keening noise. All too easy, Bun Bun. All too easy. She blew the embarrassed faunus a kiss before turning back to face him. Now that we've officially survived initiation, we were thinking about a little celebration. Not now, she waved when everyone groaned, just a little shindig at the end of the week. Something to celebrate our new lives, eh? She the gleam of interest in Blake's eyes and leaned closer. How about it? Anybody up for karaoke? Emerald looked fit to spit. Coco, no. First, it's only Monday. Second? Bad idea. Even for you. You don't want to hear Naruto sing. Lies. Libel. Slander. As if you're any better than me, Missy. You shattered glass the last time. She scoffed. I was 10. I can sing a little. All eyes rounded on little Pyrrha. To her credit, the champion didn't balk beneath the weight of their gaze. Which was something considering anyone was currently looking at her like she'd grown a second head, and said second head had started shooting lasers from its eyes. Even Coco was looking at her. Really? Velvet found her vice first. Father forced me to take lessons when I was younger. The redhead grimaced. While I'm admittedly not as good as someone like Weiss Schnee. Who sounds like a brat? Blake chimed. Still, I have some confidence in my skills. She finished. I suddenly find myself reconsidering my decision. Emerald stated. Ditto. Naruto seconded immediately. I kinda want to hear Pyrrha sing now. I third that motion. Coco beeled in, eyes flashing. It's only Monday, right? So that'd be what, Saturday? Pyrrha shook her head rapidly, red ponytail flashing behind her head, but it was too late to dig herself out of it now. She'd made her bed and she'd have to sleep in it. She found no pity in the eyes of her teammates, and only curiosity in the eyes of Velvet and Coco. Naruto looked past her. Velvet? You're all right with this? She turned those wide of hers on him and he wavered. Please? Every time. What can I say? I'm greedy. Something sparked in the brunette's eyes. Speaking of which, mind holding still for a bit? Naruto recognized the gleam in her eyes too late. Even as he stepped back, the brunette stepped forward and delivered a chaste kiss to his cheek. It was surprisingly tame for Coco. So much so that he half expected her to try something else. When she didn't, he couldn't help but be alarmed. Not even when Emerald hissed. The hell was that for? I didn't forget you, Mint. Coco rounded on her in the next instant. Come here. Wait, what are you on about MMPH? The gunner's mouth met hers, silencing her in an instant. Pyrrha meeped. Blake's jaw clicked open. Naruto whistled softly at the sight. Velvet covered her face and peeked between her fingers. You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that. Coco pulled away, grin growing as the illusionist balked at her. So worth it. Ashbin's voice saved them from Mount Emerald's eruption. Would Coco Adele, Fox Alistair, Velvet Scarlatina, and Yatsuhashi Daichi please report to the stage? Well, that's us. Coco tilted up her shades and waved. See you two around. For what it's worth, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Her hip brushed Naruto's in passing as she sashayed away with a less than subtle sway in her step. By the way, she called back, I'll take that bet you mentioned. 100 Lean says the headmaster's going to give our team a kick-ass name unlike yours. Naruto only gulped for a moment when she walked away. Really? Just a moment, a few seconds, maybe a minute tops. Emerald glared bloody red daggers at him for it. Down, lover boy. Come on, it ain't like that. Stop staring at her hips then. She challenged. I'd like to see you try. He accused. Just look at her. Emerald followed his gaze with a roll of the eyes but nevertheless tilted her head to follow Coco. Tilted it further. Nearly horizontal. Coco didn't walk. She absolutely strutted. And why not? She had nothing to be ashamed of. The girl was confidence personified. She caught Emerald looking and winked over her shoulder. Now it was her turn to flush. Fair point. She conceded, cheeks rosy as she touched a hand to her lips. She really does flaunt it, but what the hell was that? You're asking me? Naruto saw weakness and pounced. I wasn't the one, she tongued. The poor thief looked fit to combust, but she saw her chance to turn the tide. Still, what color is a nebula? Anything, really? Pera chimed in with a hint of uncertainty. It can be multiple colors like us. I think it's fitting, given who we are. Naruto and Blake exchanged a wry look. She was right in a sense. They came from all walks of life. 2 former thieves, an ex-White Fang operative, and a champion all signed up to be hunters. It sounded like the beginning to some bad joke. You couldn't get a more eccentric cast than this if you tried. Naruto's heart swelled with something. Belatedly, he realized it was pride in other people. Pure child. Must protect from everyone. Sure. Blake yanked his arm in a rare display of emotion. The headmaster's about to. I now present Team CFVY. Ashbin's voice called. It was a death knell for Coco. Henceforth they shall be known as Team Coffee. Coco swore a blue streak. Oh gods damn it. Pera's mouth twitched into a smile and Blake's joined hers. Naruto and Emerald's reactions? Why, they were nothing short of explosive. Ha! Naruto crowed, pumping a fist into the air. Easy money! Eat it, suckers! If you lot are quite done down there? Ashbin called, his voice all but throbbing with irritation. Would the following students please report to the stage? Adam, Milia, Cinder, and Mercury. I repeat, please report to the stage. Now. Preferably before I crack someone upside the head with my cane. Naruto perked up even as Blake wilted anew. Adam and Ilya were known to them, but the last 2? What are you hiding for? Emerald frowned when Blake ducked behind her. It's not like Adam's going to attack you. Coco and Velvet had proven willing enough to forgive and forget when he refused to give the girl up. Adam would be well, not volatile, he wasn't quite there yet, but there was a danger all the same. They'd come here to retrieve Blake and drag her back to the Fang. If he'd surrendered the poor girl to them, Blake would have undoubtedly bolted. His gaze slipped to the woman in her red dress and found he recognized her. She was the very one who'd insulted Carden just last night. She glided up the steps alongside a silver-haired youth. Something in him screamed a warning the longer he looked at them. Golden eyes caught his from the stage and narrowed on him. A coy smile plucked at the woman's lips. A chill shot down Naruto's spine and he lifted his chin defiantly. Bad idea. Those blazing orbs focused I'm. You need to kill her. A voice hissed in the back of his head. The boy too. First chance you get, chop their heads off. You'll be doing this world a favor, trust me. You again, he turned his attention inward, trying to nail the annoying presence to a wall, once more to no avail. What do you want? I want you alive for one. Which you won't be if SHE gets her hands on you. Hurry up and remember. Pain flared in his skull. For crying out loud, remember what? Remember who you are. Henceforth, Ashbin's voice called him back to reality. The 4 of you shall be known as Team ACMI, otherwise spelled as ACMI, led by Adam. If one listened carefully, they could hear the sound of grinding teeth. Naruto couldn't help himself. He guffawed openly. Pera slapped a hand over her mouth, but it was too little, too late. She'd snickered. The crowd caught that, and the auditorium roared with laughter. Emerald bit her own palm to stifle her mirth, but within moments she joined the lot of them. And Blake? Blake actually giggled. Just like that, all thoughts of danger and distress flew right out the window. They broke the glass and kept going, rocketing straight past the shattered moon into space. Never mind. Naruto snorted. I like your team name. We would have wound up as Team Pimple. That's not how you spell it. Cinder howled. Naruto hooted right back. That's how I'm going to spell it. He was still laughing when they finally reached their new dorm room. Bunk beds? Bunk beds. Naruto beamed, stringing the last one of the rigging up. Come on, don't. Emerald recoiled with visible disdain as she eyed the 4 beds before them, one standing atop the other. She wanted to burn them. Burn them with fire. Whoever invented the hated concept of those things? Yeah, they deserved to be strung up by their toes. In her eyes, beds were meant for sharing warmth. She loathed the idea of sleeping alone. So she said as much. I'd rather sleep with you. Pyra squeaked. Blake made a choking sound. Emerald squinted at them, baffled by their response. Was it something I said? And you say I have a filthy mind. Naruto shook his head with a bemused wink. Now. Let's not scar our darling daughters. Eh? I beg your pardon? Well, Slim's shoulders rolled in a shrug as he stowed the last of his gear. Em and I are clearly going to be looking after the 2 of you, given that you're both a year younger than us, so might as well. Pyra's pure and needs protecting, and Blake's well Blake. Pyra granted him a watery smile of her own. That sounds grand. Blake folded her arms. I'm not calling you daddy. You wound me. The blonde howled. Emerald looked away for a second as she kicked her shoes off, just a second. That was all. In that second, Blake cried out. The former thief whipped around to find the dark-haired girl standing on the very tips of her toes and Naruto holding up a dark red book as though it were the Holy Grail itself. His triumphant expression suggested otherwise. Oh. She knew that look all too well. That look was nothing good. Look! Naruto feigned a sniffle. Blake's got porn. Are little girls growing up so fast, JCK? The smaller faunus tackled him to the floor. It's fantasy, not porn. Give it back. Emerald watched the chaos unfold with a tiny smile as Pyra tried to separate the 2, only to be dragged in herself. So, this was her new life. It was official now. There could be no turning back. She'd gone from a starving street urchin to an accomplished thief. Now here she was, aiming to become a huntress. She'd found a partner and fallen in love, even if he didn't quite realize it yet. And now, quite suddenly, she had friends aplenty daughters, if she wanted to play Naruto's game and so much more. Emerald observed the 3 of them for a moment more, watching them banter back and forth like children. Then she waded in. All right, let me see the book. This was her new life. She would fight to keep it. Because for the first time in her life, this was something she hadn't stolen. She'd earned this. She had made it her own. She would kill to protect it. To protect them. If anyone tried to rip away their happy new life together, if anyone took it into their head to break apart her team, well, they'd have a bad time. They were family, after all. You didn't steal from family. Family was, well, family. And that meant no one got left behind. Felt damn good to say that. Team Nebula had a rather interesting first morning, all things considered. Emerald woke and claimed Fizz's shower by right of conquest, namely by being quick to rise and quicker still to slam the bathroom door in everyone's face. Warm water washed away every ache and pain brought on by the mess known was initiation, leaving her feeling pleasantly relaxed by the end of it. Bit of a pity, though. She would have liked Naruto to join her, but such was impossible with Blake and Pyra literally pounding on the door for their turn. Girls like their showers. The things one gave up for family. From there it was a mad scramble down to the cafeteria to get some grub, if only because every other student had the same idea. Hordes of hungry, near-zombified teenagers descended upon the mess hall, pale and grasping for food. Yes. Definitely food. Honestly, it nearly became a food fight. Thankfully, the other teams seemed too preoccupied with their first meal to give them any trouble. Which meant Coco didn't come poking around yet. Thank heaven for small mercies. So, first lessons? Blake asked over breakfast. Dunno. Naruto tore into another pancake. What's on the agenda? Emerald uttered a jaw-popping yawn as she slumped against the table. It was as good a way to start the day as any. Pira? Let's see, first comes grim studies with Professor Port. Their resident redhead thumbed through the lesson plan given them, then combat classes with Miss Goodwitch. After that, we're free for the rest of the day. She looked up, a faint smile at her lips. Well, it would appear that they're being generous with us, given it's our first day. That's grand. Perhaps we can go into town after? Sure, why not? Naruto perked up, blue eyes flashing with delight. Combat class, you say? Emerald swatted him with a newspaper. No! Bad Naruto! Sit! Stay! I'm a fox, not a dog, you know. It was too much to hope he would stay out of trouble. Then again, that was why she loved him. Know it or not, he had her heart. Until death did them part. Naruto would never abandon her. Never betray her. He could not be bent. He would not be broken. Many had tried. All had failed. The last group to make such an attempt fared poorly. Her beloved shattered every bone in their leader's body and left them for the grim. The rest he destroyed all save one. Really? The crown? What were they thinking? Did Jax think them unprepared? Idiots. She glared down at her fist, stifling a smile as aura flowed across her palm. That said, his sister Jillian had a fascinating semblance, the ability to siphon aura from one individual to the next. Emerald knew it well. It now ran through her veins. Naruto's gift to her. It made her strong. Versatile in a world where adaptation was king. She would treasure it always, and only ever use it for his sake. So she swore. But Jax? His semblance died with him in the desert. A power like that was too great a temptation for anyone to hold. Emerald had begged him to let it go, and to her relief he relented. Better to let a wretched ability like that vanish into the void, where no one would be able to use it. Just as it should be. The Master Thief blinked. Huh? What is it? Naruto regarded her with keen blue eyes. You looked like you were spacing out for a bit there. No, I'm fine. She sidled up against him before he could dwell on it. Nothing to worry about here. I'm where I belong. Munching happily on a fresh slice of toast, Emerald looped an arm around his waist. Naruto laughed and laid his head on her shoulder. She allowed it, content to sit and bask once more in the warm glow of her new family. Her new life had finally begun. Everything was coming up roses now. Nothing could ruin this. Absolutely nothing at all. Monsters, creatures of the night, grim. Professor Port boomed. But I call them prey. Why, when I was but a boy. Emerald's head struck the desk with a resounding smack. Naruto joined hers a heartbeat later. Nope. Blake lasted only a second longer. Pira tried to endure. More fool she. Pira Nikos was beginning to think her team was broken. Not in a bad way, mind you. Naruto and Emerald were delightfully crass and they didn't give a flying fig about her fame. Blake was quiet, but not so much an introvert as one might initially suspect. When she wanted to ask you something, she darn well would. Always full of questions, that one. The Nikos name meant nothing to her either. It didn't mean anything to any of them. They accepted her for her she was, not what she'd done, not who she'd become. She was just plain oil Pira to them. She loved them for that. Even if she couldn't remember their first class together. Port's class proved mercifully brief. At least she felt it had. Most of the class dozed off within the first 5 minutes, and she'd eventually succumb to it as well. Dear gods, but that man could ramble on. His very voice was a weapon. Was it a semblance? It had to be a semblance. Nothing else could put trained men and women to sleep so easily. By contrast, she found herself looking forward to combat class and all it entailed. Miss Goodrich certainly looked capable enough and rather frightening at that. She looked stern. Dangerous, even. This was a huntress, a weapon of deadly will and power given human form. This was what she would be one day, assuming she managed to survive the next 4 years. Somehow, she didn't think her tournament training would stack up well against the hell she was about to see. "Welcome, students," their instructor spoke clearly, her voice ringing out to be heard by all in the room. Pyrrha tried her best not to shrink beneath her gaze. "As this is our first class together, I thought it best to go over the basics. First," her crop smacked into an open palm. "As huntsmen and huntresses, you are expected to uphold the peace. That includes—" Blake flicked an ear lazily as she droned on. Pyrrha found her eyes drawn to it, mind listening even as she did her best to pay attention. She truly did. But she found her attention waning and her thoughts wandering all the same. Perhaps she was still numb from listening to Port's lecture. Could it even be called that? He'd most told them stories of his youth. If there had been a lesson in there. Coco nudged her with an elbow. When had she gotten so close? "So, any bets on the first match?" "Match?" Sure enough, Miss Goodrich was looking at their group with a keen eye. "Let's see," she began slowly, "with Naruto and—" Pyrrha looked away. "Not me, not me, not me." "Cinder, please enter the ring?" Pyrrha perked up, realizing she'd been spared. She turned to find her team leader striding forward, shields strapped to either wrist. There was a high, wild light in his eyes, one she recognized from the Emerald Forest. His blood was up again. As he turned to face his opponent, she beheld the very woman who had emasculated Carden just the other night. Carden, who wouldn't be attending Beacon due to his ruined mental state. No, best not to think about that. She forced her thoughts elsewhere. Cinder. So that was her name. Coco whistled. This'll be good. No one's seen her fight. Velvet nudged her. Don't be so bloodthirsty. It's just a bit of sparring. Girl, tell that to him. He looks like he wants to eat Cinder up. Same goes for her. Pyrrha's gaze swung back to the combatants. If Naruto's grin reminded her of a tricky fox, then this woman was a viper, coiled and ready to strike. She wore a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Hips swaying, she didn't so much walk as she did strut into the ring. Not a single movement was wasted. Confidence personified, this woman. We meet again. Cinder laughed, and something in her voice sent a shiver racing down Pyrrha's spine. I'm curious to see what you're capable of. You as well. Naruto didn't rise to the bait, but slipped into a stance of his own. I've been wanting to fight you. Don't. A tiny voice shrieked in the back of Pyrrha's head. She wasn't sure why. What was this trepidation she felt? Try as she might, she couldn't put her finger on it. A strange, nebulous dread wriggled its way into the pit of her stomach and took root there. She wanted to tell herself that it would be all right. Naruto was strong after all. He might enjoy a good fight from time to time, but surely there wasn't any danger here. Glinda would step in before either took things too far. Would she not? You will fight until one ring out, one of you surrenders, Miss Goodrich declared, or your aura drops into the red. Prepare yourselves. Cinder raised her arms and a pair of wickedly curved swords manifested in her palms, one to each hand. They looked sharp and jagged, as though formed from glass itself. She brandished them with deceptive grace, eyes alight. For a moment they almost seemed to glow. Pyrrha blinked and it was gone. Surely that must have been her imagination. Interesting semblance. Naruto hummed. Cinder tilted her head, ebony hair falling over one golden eye. Aren't you going to use yours? Nah. He waved a hand flippantly and began to circle her. We're all friends here, right? I'll take it easy. How kind of you. Cinder mirrored his motions perfectly, closing the gap. But do be careful. Pride comes before the fall. His grin grew. Know a thing or two about that, do you? Her gaze narrowed and Glinda's crop slashed through the air. Begin! The circle closed. Cinder lunged and Naruto moved to meet her, flicking his right arm toward her face in a savage shield bash. She caught it on her leftmost blade and swiped at his face with the other. He turned it aside with a slap of his palm and rammed a heel palm into her chin. She raked a blade across his ribs for it. The world blurred away as they fell upon each other in a flurry of blows. This wasn't a battle, Pyrrha realized. To call it such would be a disgrace. This was a waltz. Cinder was an unstoppable force. Naruto was an immovable object. Someone had to give, and it wasn't him. Naruto weathered Cinder's assault with ease, blocking what he could and tanking what he couldn't, ensuring she never got the upper hand. For her part, Cinder proved just as relentless, ever on the offensive, striking out at his exposed legs, flowing around him seeking the holes in his defenses as she did her very best to drive her blades home. Their dance deepened, becoming something darker, more primal. She snarled when she missed a strike and Naruto laughed as he brought a hammer fist crashing down on the back of her head. Coco pumped a fist and out a whoop. Now that's how you fight. Kick her ass, Whiskers. Pyrrha wanted to be up there. She wanted to fight with them. He's playing with his food again. I'm sorry? The redhead stole a quick glance at her teammate. What do you mean? Look at him. Emerald tucked a stray strand of mint-colored hair behind one ear. He's too busy having fun up there. He isn't taking this seriously. See for yourself. She spat on the floor, momentarily alarming her. It's going to be the death of him someday. Cinder took another blow and brought her blades crashing down on Naruto's shield. He took the attack on his arm, then rammed his forehead into hers, sending her stumbling back. When she retreated, he chased her, forcing her on the back foot with quick, measured strikes. All the while, he was grinning from ear to ear. A laugh tore from him as she hacked off a huge chunk of his aura, but he kept attacking, forcing her to the very brink of the ring. Blake inhaled sharply. He's got her. It certainly seemed so. Naruto had Cinder on the back foot. He just needed to press the attack until quite suddenly he didn't. He must have seen something they hadn't, because he flung himself backwards. Pyrrha soon saw why. A series of jagged glass-like spikes burst from the space he'd been standing a moment before. One caught him in his ribs, sending him tumbling to the floor. Finally, Cinder ceased her retreat. Once more, her eyes almost seemed to glow for a moment before they dimmed. Are you just going to cower behind those shields of yours? A dark brow rose in challenge. I thought you were braver than that. Naruto merely hummed. Best offense is a good defense. But if you insist. He blurred. Cinder spun, but it was too late. His right hand brushed her bare shoulder, and she hissed as a black mark bloomed there, branded against her flesh. She cut out of him, but he was already gone, slamming his palm into the floor. Another struck the arena, carving a third mark. Fourth. Fifth. A sixth and a seventh now, as he trailed his hand across the ground. 8. Too late, she realized his intentions. 9. A wave of molten glass crackled at his feet, but he was already gone, already moving, already on her. And for the first time since she'd seen her, Cinder cried out in pain. A litany of cuts blossomed across her arms, leaving her reeling. In a heartbeat her aura plummeted, hanging just above the red. You said you wouldn't use your semblance. I lied. He shrugged carelessly. Words are a weapon too, Cinder. Everything is. A weapon. She finished for him, licking a bead of blood from when she bit her lip. I am familiar with the saying. A man after my own heart. I like that. Emerald absolutely hissed. She's flirting with him. I'll kill her. The words were so soft that Pyrrha thought she'd imagined them at first. But no, they were painfully real. Sorry. Naruto arched an eyebrow. I'm afraid I'm spoken for. Such a shame. Pyrrha felt Emerald preen against her. Not as much as you'd think. He laughed. She's a keeper. Cinder swept into a different stance, bending low to the ground. Let's see if I can change your mind. Emerald started forward. Pyrrha clamped onto her right arm. Blake grabbed the left. Coco latched onto her waist. Stop flirting and get on with it already, Adam shouted from the sidelines. We don't have all day. Pyrrha agreed wholeheartedly. Abruptly the duel came to an end. Naruto flashed away from Cinder's blades and the razor edge of his rightmost shield came up under her chin. Her swords alighted on his throat a moment later, crossed and ready to draw blood. Aura buckled, then broke beneath the force of their simultaneous strike. They looked like two animals, ready to ravish one another. Chests heaving, eyes glazed. Pyrrha's gaze snapped up to the board, alarmed to find their aura well past the red, scarcely a silver of it remained. Enough! Miss Goodwitch snapped. Both of you! The match is over! Miss Fall! To the infirmary with you! Naruto drew back first, drawing a small shiver from his opponent. Pyrrha frowned at it. That wasn't fear in Cinder's eyes, but something else. An unquantifiable emotion, one she wasn't at all familiar with. She looked like she wanted to make a snack of him. Emerald noticed it too, because she hastened to his side as he stepped out of the ring. You good? Yeah, he grinned. I'm fine. He was fine. Cinder hadn't hurt him at all. So why did Pyrrha have a bad feeling about this? So, why do you think of him? He is adequate. Cinder hummed and spared an indulgent glance over her shoulder as she finished wrapping her right arm in gauze. Ah, dear Mercury. Always full of questions. Always eager to rise above his station. Always wanting to know more. She could respect such ambition. He wasn't an ideal minion, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he suited her purposes well enough. He was all she had. Thankfully, he was easily placated and easily led by her whims. So long as she had the measure of him, he would never betray her. His gaze slipped to the cuts on her arms, and the mark still burned into her left shoulder. Looks more than adequate to me. Of course he wasn't adequate. She'd lied. He was so much more than that. He was exemplary. And he would be hers. Mercury's days were numbered. She'd found his replacement. He simply failed to realize it. Such a foolish child. Did he not realize Naruto had held back the lion's share of his strength? He could have broken her if he wanted to. If he but willed it, he would have humiliated her. Instead, he deceived everyone into thinking it an even fight. Yes, Naruto had certainly restrained himself, or so she would have believed, were it not for the mark still burned into her shoulder. He'd left it there. An accident, perhaps? Or was it a warning? One could never be too sure. Why else would two criminals infiltrate Beacon? He and that little minx of his were up to something. They must be. By comparison, her injuries were light. They'd not even scar. She'd felt the strength in his attacks, felt him reel it back in time and again despite acting like a man. He'd not wanted to make a scene. That implied a weakness on his part, one she was determined to exploit. So long as their goals didn't conflict with her own, of course. So that's your plan, boss? Get into their good graces and destroy them from the inside out? Mercury sounded skeptical and his expression told her as much. Doesn't seem to be working. Silly boy. Was that what he thought? Cinder knew better. She had already sown the seeds. Patience, dear Mercury. She soothed. In time, they'll play right into our hands. Naruto would be hers. Rather, he already was. He just didn't realize it yet. No doubt he was advancing his own nefarious schemes even now. Sometimes, Naruto wondered if his semblance was cursed. That shouldn't be possible, of course. He hadn't stolen another semblance in a long time, and certainly not one based on bad luck. But this felt like it. It was meant to be a simple trip into Vale, a nice way to celebrate their first day. Coco's little bash wouldn't be until next week. He had the distinct feeling alcohol would be involved, but he'd been all too happy to honor Pira's request and take his team into the city. After all, Vale was their home now. Best to learn the ins and outs of the city whole he could. Just in case something went wrong. For one meant forearmed after all. And he was nothing if not the sensible sort. So yes, it should have been a nice day out. Unfortunately, fate is seldom so kind and destiny delights in disaster. And so he found himself roped into another disaster of his own making. A simple excursion? Yeah, not so simple anymore. To think, it all stemmed from asking a single question. The simple desire to help someone. His luck really was the pits these days. Blake groaned. Why are we doing this again? Because Naruto's a softie. Emerald prodded her on. Keep looking. Priya offered a nervous laugh. Surely it can't be that hard to find, right, miss? I know I had it somewhere around here. You're a bit of an odd duck, ain't ya? Naruto blew out a sigh as he trailed after the speaker. How the hell did you manage to lose a staff in the middle of the city? I'm not a duck. The girl in question wrinkled her nose at him. My name's Amber. I already told you that. A blonde brow rose. Question still stands, missy? I'm a bit clumsy, alright? He kept walking. Noisy girl. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story. And also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.